We are people pleasers.
It feels like 95% of Indians
Yes.
are people pleasers.
Please your parents, you'll be safe. Please your teachers, you'll be safe. You're dating from your love blueprint.
Do you believe in manifestation?
Love.
Manifesting love, yes.
It's your emotional Wi-Fi that's connecting to the same network again and again.
Constantly falling into the same patterns, and I think it's become more exaggerated in the dating world.
A lot of these things are, yes, unhealthy, but all of them are not toxic.
Welcome to Isle Talks. We're finally at 2026, and this is our New Year special. Over the last few episodes, we've been speaking about so many topics of how to really navigate relationships, but more importantly, about self discovery, self work. And one thing that came out really clearly around these conversations was patterns. Patterns that we really see ourselves getting into, patterns we see how other people are getting into, not to judge them, not to fix them, but to just understand what are these autopilot modes we are on. And I'm so glad we can finally explore this topic very closely with someone very special on our podcast today, and that is Anamika Pandey. She's a relationship expert and the founder of the Conscious Love Blueprint. Thank you so much for making it today on our podcast, Anamika.
Thank you for having me, Chandni. It's so lovely to be sitting here and having this conversation. I think
Yeah.
this conversation is going to change how a lot of people will be navigating 2026.
I think there's been a lot of education in this space for a while now, but there are a lot more new problems that also our users are seeing. So I'm going to get right to it. Of course, there are a lot of singles in the landscape which are single by choice, and it's very healthy. But then there are some who really want to start connecting. And for such viewers, for such singles, is there really a way that they can understand what are these patterns that they keep falling into?
I would like to say that, when you think about love, mostly people think that you're dating from your heart, or some people think that now I'm dating from my head, right? But you're dating from neither. You're dating from your love blueprint. You can be on any app at this point of time, right? But if you are operating from an emotionally wounded love blueprint, right? You can swipe right on the right person, but it's again going to be the same situation that you might have witnessed before. So it's not about the right person, it's about the right love blueprint. Yes. So the love blueprint is an operating system that's deciding silently for you who you feel attracted to, who feels exciting for you, who feels boring for you, what do you tolerate in relationships, and how quickly or how slowly you walk away from someone who's not right for you. A lot of people say that, I have now learned my boundaries. And those are the same people who go back into the same patterns. It's not because you don't know how to date, it's because your love blueprint is deciding how you date.
A lot of people think they have a choice with a lot of things that are happening around them, and maybe they do, but not in the way they're thinking. If we were actually to tell these viewers, if you were to actually look for signals and signs, or what is this loop that I'm constantly falling into again and again, could you help break this down for our viewers?
I remember this one conversation with one particular woman, and she said, I think my app is broken. I'm looking at her, I'm like, why do you say that? She's like, it just keeps attracting the same kind of emotionally unavailable people.
That's an interesting one.
So I said,
My
I
app
looked
is
at
nice.
I looked at her, I said, your app is not broken.
Yeah.
It's your emotional Wi-Fi that's connecting to the same network again and again.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And think about it. A lot of people think that they're bad at dating, but they're not really bad at dating. It's actually the love blueprint that they are operating from. This love blueprint was actually created long before you even thought about dating. Your love blueprint is what you absorbed, what you learned, and what you internalized. So let's say we take an example, Mira. Okay. Mira saw growing up in her home that over explaining, over functioning, emotional distance is a normal. That's the emotional climate at my home. That is what she absorbed, right? People pleasing was the way of getting attention from my parents, from people around me. That is what she learned. And what she internalized is this is what love looks like. This is what I have to do. So now, when you end up with people who are emotionally unavailable, it's not because you don't know your worth.
Correct.
It's because that is what feels familiar to your blueprint.
Correct.
I've seen this time and again in my line of work. So many women keep saying that I keep attracting emotionally unavailable men, right? People who are not committing, dating is so difficult, finding love is so tiring, exhausting.
Yeah.
But if you see that same woman, when she finds someone who is commitment ready, okay, someone who's caring, genuine, she actually feels like, no, this is like,
Yeah.
slightly boring, right?
Yeah.
And when she finds someone who has all the red flags, her system just lights up.
Yeah.
And you think that's connection, but that's not connection. That's your blueprint
Yeah.
recognizing something familiar. Either you can be in that space where, your love blueprint can keep creating the same story for you, right? You can keep thinking that, how should I date? Or you can understand that my love blueprint is unconsciously creating the same patterns. And I say this with a lot of love that wanting love is not desperate, it's very human.
Yeah.
But entering love from a healed love blueprint, that's powerful. That's something which truly changes your outcomes in love.
That reminds me of an example, a very close friend of mine, constantly falling into the same patterns. And I think it's become more exaggerated in the dating world. I think it must have happened even before dating apps were there. But now with the, whole ghosting and mind games and understanding, I think there's a certain social media warfare going on in this zone. And when I'm watching closely, right? And maybe through your friendships, you actually see a lot of these patterns even through other relationships.
Absolutely.
Because you see people pleasing coming out there. You see in school also, maybe they were really striving for that. College also, you've seen them
you
in
see hyper independence as well.
Absolutely. Now you're seeing it in a dating sphere because it's similar, aspects playing out.
Yeah.
And when I would see this friend, as a third person, it's very interesting because a lot of your friends, your family can see these patterns return.
Which you can't.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
can't. And sometimes it's so obvious, right? So for a friend like that who's going through these ups and downs so frequently in their relationship, how would you break it up for them? How should they recognize their own signals?
Firstly, I think we need to understand that what is toxic and what is unhealthy. Because I think with the jargons that are out there, everything people feel is toxic. If someone is not commitment ready, that's toxic. Someone
Yeah.
is dysregulated, that's toxic. A lot of these things are, yes, unhealthy, but all of them are not toxic. Some of them are just unskilled or emotionally underdeveloped. And we have forgotten to, put it like that. So again, this brings us to a very important distinction that just because now you know that that person isn't toxic, they might be unskilled or emotionally underdeveloped, doesn't mean you still, go ahead with them, right? But understanding that a lot of these situations are not toxic. A lot of people that you end up with are not toxic, just unhealthy. We are all looking for a certain type of a person, but there is always a type, okay? And I ask this question to everyone. Are you looking for a type? They're like, yes. Has your type ever worked out for you? They're like, no. Why are you still looking for your type? So it's for us to understand that at what point do we stop calling our type a preference and start spotting it as a pattern, right? It's up to us.
So true.
Either I can just keep looking for that type, and my type is something which is making me anxious, making me dysregulated. We see 10% of the potential. We don't know the person 90%. We imagine it in our head. We put it together and like, okay, you've shown me 10%. 90% I've visualized, I've imagined, and now I think you're the perfect partner for me to go ahead with, right? But what is exactly happening? I'm seeing someone like, oh, this looks like my type. Let me go repeat my pattern. So there are top 4 things that I would say that everyone can check for them. The first is that if you have to look at the last 3 to 4 people that you've dated, and I call this the uncomfortable audit, because of course it's not very easy for you to look back and see your 3 to 4 dating experiences, right? We usually blame it either on the app or the city or the location or the filters or people. But when you actually sit with it and you look at your last 3 to 4 dating experiences, and then you ask yourself that, is it the same emotional pattern that's repeating for me, right? So what I'm saying is different men, right? Different stories, different spaces, but the same emotional story is repeating for you. Yes.
And so many times, people say that, no, the kind of people I've dated, they're not always similar. But then if you actually start focusing on your own
Your
patterns,
emotional experience, right?
that's the same. Why did
You
you
felt
enter the relationship in
exactly.
the first place? You go like, oops, there's something going on
So
out there.
if I give you an example, every time someone
Mm.
will talk about their relationship struggles to me, I've seen the same 2, 3 sentences. Everyone always betrays me. People
Mm.
abandon me. I
Mm.
always go into relationships. They make me feel controlled. So it could be different people, right? And we're thinking that, okay, I'm logically now consciously trying to rule out what happened to me last time. So I'm not going to select a partner based on those criteria.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very conscious, very logical, very aware.
Mm.
But on the deeper level, you end up still choosing someone who makes you feel exactly the same way.
So say, let's say today I'm single and I understand that this is happening to me and I want to step out of this pattern, right? How should I first start understanding my symptoms?
For everyone, of course, there can be a wide set of patterns that might be there
Mm.
based on your blueprint, your programming, your
Mm.
conditioning. But like I said, one, if the same story repeats for you in different phases, okay, take an audit for the last 3, 4 connections.
Mm.
That's number one. The second is if you become someone who's always auditioning in the relationship,
So true.
right? You're there, you're the caretaker, you either become the savior, you become the therapist, you take responsibility for their whole life, right? You're trying to do everything to make this relationship work. In the Indian context, I would say, because a lot of us have seen that as a definition of love, right? Like a lot of us have been sold that idea that give and give and love and love. And one day they'll realize that, how much you've done, and they'll see that you
Correct.
for who you are.
Yeah.
But that overgiving is a pattern, right?
Mm.
You're looking at someone, they are emotionally unavailable, and you're trying to reason it out in your head that, oh, maybe they are at this point in their career, maybe I need to be a little better, I need to be a little more perfect. We make it very normal that, okay, once he's sure about me, they will be sure about me one day if I give them more time. But what am I doing exactly?
Mm.
I am letting their uncertainty, right? It could be their commitment issue, it could be their emotional unavailability. It slowly turns into an internal story for me where I'm sitting and I'm thinking, when will this person choose me,
Or
right?
maybe I'm not enough.
Maybe I'm not enough. And slowly it all becomes about your worth, right? And we've heard this multiple times that someone not choosing you is not a reflection of your worth,
Correct.
but it is a reflection of your patterns.
So true. I think you point on. I mean, that's perfectly put, right? The word toxic, we've been throwing around so many jargons of late. And, in my previous episodes, I've spoken about, are we okay doing this every day, all the time? And I'm so glad we addressed that issue, that it's not toxic, it's unhealthy, because at the end of it, I think we're all work in progress.
Yes.
And if you really go to see, you will find some or the other red flag toxic patterns within yourselves as well.
Absolutely.
And I love the line that you mentioned that, it's not reflecting who we are, but it's
Yeah.
reflecting the
It's
pattern
not a
that
measure of your worth, but
yeah,
it's definitely an indication of your patterns.
absolutely. I think, in fact, when people go through this, there's a lot of grief. Like whenever there's breakup because of this, now you're going to do these patterns, they're going to keep coming up again and again. Firstly, how do you fix it? What is the kind of self-work that you would suggest people do to step out of these patterns? Just the first few steps.
Yeah.
And eventually, you'll also have to understand your relationship with the other person's
Yeah.
baggage that they're carrying. So, how do you sort of balance that dynamic?
Yeah. Firstly, I think whenever you go through a bad experience, whether it's a bad dating experience, an arranged setup experience, we need to understand that when I'm
Right.
emotionally invested, it is a full on emotional investment for me.
Mm.
So when that breaks away, when I realize that, okay, this is something that's not going to go forward, you will become someone who is, really heartbroken. And you're like, love never works out for me. You create more grief, more pain, you internalize it more because now love is something which is very scary. You're like, okay, I want love, but I don't have the strength
And
to
the
move
energy.
out
Yeah.
to meet someone. Okay. When people don't really understand that how their patterns are working, they go straight into dating someone exactly very similar.
Mm.
So before I think you want to move on or you want to do something,
Mm.
it's very important for you to ask yourself that why did this happen? why was I with this person? Of course, there could be different set of things that could have gone wrong. But if you realize that you end up with a lot of people who are not reciprocating, who are not giving as much as emotional labor
Yeah.
as you want in the relationship, then the first and the most important thing that you need to ask yourself is why and what is my idea of love? Like I've seen this happen so many times that, I lost my entire identity in the relationship. Why would you do that? Because that is your definition of love. Someone told you that yes, love involves losing your identity. It involves people pleasing other people. It involves doing certain set of things. So becoming aware that what does actually love feel for you? Once you understand that, bridge the gap. What I think unconsciously love is versus what would I like to receive in love.
When you actually are brutally honest with yourself and you say that, actually, I just want safety, that's love for me, then it's sort of, you start questioning, why do I feel this is love?
Yes.
Why should I be okay with the bare minimum? And where did it all go wrong? And you start mapping it all out. In your line of work, have you seen it be very different for Indians versus people out of India and across different demographics? Does it differ?
I think there are a few particular patterns that are very inherent to the Indian setups.
Correct.
Because how we have been conditioned that, elders have to be respected a certain way. In the Western space, you'll see that, them ideally pushing their kids that, okay, you are as an adult. Whereas
Yeah.
in the Indian setup, you are
There's
not.
a hierarchy.
There is a hierarchy. You are a child, you need to listen, we'll decide for you. It has created a certain set of values, but everything has like a shadow to itself,
Absolutely.
right? So the shadow here is that we are people pleasers.
It feels like 95% of Indians
Yeah.
are people pleasers
We are.
because we've been told to please our parents in some way or the other.
Please your parents, you'll be safe. Please your teachers, you'll be safe. So now, of course, if you have been conditioned to love like this or accept love like this, how do you
Yes.
think that one day you'll wake up at 30 and you'll be like, oh, I want someone who's going to, love me just for who I am?
Correct.
You've never
Which
experienced
you don't
it.
even know what that is.
What I see the ripple effect of the people pleasing, I would call it the rebellion, that hyper independence, which is I don't need anyone. I can do all by myself.
The other side of the spectrum.
The other side of the spectrum, right? So it's like a pendulum.
It's actually overcompensating also.
It's the other end of the pendulum. So either you are like people pleasing or you swing on the extreme.
Perfect.
And you're like, I'm a hyper independent person, right? We have seen our mothers, our grandmoms, the women around us, nurture and pour the feminine aspect of nurturing. It's so fulfilling. But what has happened is that we've taken it into the other context in love, right? When you see women only in the role of nurturing and not being nurtured, right? They are being stretched thin, taking care of everyone. So many women who end up with emotionally unavailable people is actually that I have seen someone who needs me and I will be the caretaker for them.
Yeah.
If I end up with someone who is equally taking care of themselves, I don't know what to do. I feel very irrelevant.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful woman, okay, and she's 27. She is an entrepreneur. She's doing really well in her life. She went to London for her master's and everything. She's with this guy who has a lot of chaos in his life.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm asking her that, why do you think this is love? She's like, but this is a great guy. I said, I understand that, but you cannot marry every good guy, right? So what is happening here? She's like, I think that, he makes me feel needed. He makes me feel that, I can fix things in his life. Yes.
And isn't that like almost every woman we've met at some point or the other in their life wants to fix the other guy?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yes.
they're also financially supporting them, taking care of them, all of that. So in very different ways, somehow there's this fixer mentality, which I see a lot with women versus men. I had a lot of acquaintances and friends that I'm sure you'll be able to relate, but a close friend, she's actually very grounded, very sorted if you meet her as a person, but when she meets someone, she just flips. She changes as a person. And there's a certain sudden nervous person I see who's checking her phone all the time, seeing if she got the reply on time. What's
Yeah.
going on?
What is happening is this, that, that waiting, that obsessing about the little details, right? The hypervigilance. None of this is love. But somehow we've mistaken this as love. And that's not healthy. That's not good, right? You said that every time she starts liking someone, forget about even getting into a relationship, she becomes a different person, right? So here's what's happening. She's not in love with him. She's in love with how anxious he makes her feel. When you are with someone who is emotionally inconsistent, which means some days they're like showering you with a lot of love, and the other days they pull away, they're distant, right? What this creates is like a loop, right? And I call this the love lottery, which means that your brain is trying to anticipate that when will the next hit come. So every message, every last scene, every time they share a story,
It's
and
a
you're trying to think, okay,
dopamine.
is he talking about me? Is he giving me signals? And you keep anticipating. So what happens is that it creates an emotional loop. It gets you into a chemical in your body.
Mm.
You go into a dopamine, right? You go into a hype, high, crash, repeat. And that cycle keeps going, 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 going. After a point of time, it literally becomes like an addiction.
If you really think about it, it's very profound and actually painfully accurate as well, right? Someone is really in love with the potential of what this relationship can give them
Absolutely.
rather than what this relationship really is. So tomorrow, if they have to break up with them, they're actually breaking up with their imaginary future versus the person.
I remember this one particular woman where for her Sundays were very difficult because this guy used to be like very busy in his like own life. And she used to keep thinking that, is he with someone else? Is he like, thinking about me? Is he missing me? But even in those windows, when that love lottery is not clicking, right? When you're still anticipating for that to happen, you cannot let yourself completely crash. So you are dreaming of the potential future. You're dreaming of the wedding, right? The kids, the honeymoon, you're dreaming of all of that. After a point of being into this loop, there comes an emotional exhaustion. So many women go through this cycle for even 4 to 8 years. Can you believe this?
People are not breaking up. They're saying, I don't want to go back to the apps. They're saying, if I break up with this, then my parents already have another option ready. I have to get married next month with this arranged setup. How heavy this weighs on every individual. The worst part is deep down, they already know. A lot of them already know this is not
Yes.
right for me.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for them to say it out loud.
But even when they get to that answer,
Mm.
I've seen this happen a lot of times that I'll give him time till March end. Then I'll see if he changes or there's a better behavior. March end comes,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Push the timeline.
it was like a
Yeah.
different week this time, different thing was happening. I think I want to give it a little bit more time because I've invested 6 months into it.
I haven't. Oh my God, I haven't. Don't we all know at least a few people who's doing this? There's nothing wrong with taking time to get to your
Yeah.
answer. I
Yeah.
think that's also a fair game. As long as you're not
But
fooling
you already
yourself.
know the answer, right?
Correct.
You already know it deep down. You just don't want to accept it.
But Anamika, I'm actually thinking of the other side of this coin because a lot of people are also very quick to jump out of relationships before understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
So before anything, they're all screaming red flag, jumping out, saying
Yeah.
that this person has a toxic pattern. So they're not ready to give that person even 3 months or 6 months.
Right.
So how do you deal with the other side of the overcompensation that's happening?
Absolutely. I think like I said, we are oscillating on two extremes. Yes. Either everything is unhealthy and we don't have any tolerance for, even the normal human flaws, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember someone saying that, this person comes always late. My husband is never on time, but that's a normal human flaw. Him not respecting me, that's actually unhealthy. We've gone into overcorrection, but that's also an unconscious way of me rejecting love.
Yeah. Reject it before it can reject me.
Yeah, and being aware is good, right?
Yeah.
But again, being hyper aware and looking for only the red flags, that is not how you can find love.
It's 2026, and one of the favorite topic for us right now, manifesting.
Love.
Do you believe manifesting love? Yes, 100%. In fact, a fun fact is in January, you will see dating apps, especially you'll see a lot of people joining because definitely people are ready to put themselves out there, ready to attract the new partner. But before I get into that, I want to first understand, do you believe in manifestation?
When it comes to manifesting love, a relationship that you truly desire, it's not just about, affirmations or just visualizing or doing any of those regular things that we talk about, right? Like what you just said, that in January, people are very enthusiastic, right? Everyone is like in that energy where they're like, new year, new me, it's going to be a new relationship. Maybe by the end of this December, I'm going to get married, right?
Correct.
Universe, please do something.
Yes.
And the universe is sitting there and saying, sweetheart, your inner blueprint and your patterns are from 2022. What do I do for you in 2026?
Correct. We are really shying away from doing a lot of self work that goes into changing the new year for us. So while we hope that manifestations are all about externals, it's a lot to do with internals.
Yeah.
So can you help break down this blueprint, the inner blueprint? What does it mean, and how can someone use that to manifest?
So, aligning your love blueprint for the love that you truly desire is about inner alignment, right? Here are three things that I would say that for you to start shifting that inner blueprint so that you can actually welcome the love that you truly desire in your life. Number one is understand where you are operating from. What is the inner blueprint? What are my behaviors? What are my patterns? Where am I operating from? That's number one. The second thing is that understand your nervous system. A lot of times, my body is rejecting love.
So true.
Even when I want love, but my body is like, no, last time I went into that, it really costed me a lot of things mentally, emotionally. So understand that, how your body has been rejecting or repelling love. Once you understand that, right, it becomes much more easier for you to be in alignment. And lastly, the third thing is start receiving. A lot of people actually take pride in it, that there, no one can find a giver like me in a relationship. Great, good for you. I really applaud that. But can you be a receiver as well?
So true.
Because if you're just going to be a giver, the equation is always going to be disbalanced. My definition of love can be very different from your definition of love. But it's truly what aligns with me on a soul level. The partner that I have is someone who aligns with me on a soul level.
The last point that you mentioned of receiving, being receptive actually requires you to be very brave.
Yeah.
Open up your heart,
Yeah.
take chances again. For a person who's trying to manifest,
Yeah.
their love in 2026, and say they follow these three, first thing is, I think, just working on themselves, and they can
Understanding their love blueprint. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think working on them, their inner blueprint, and
Yes.
understanding what really aligns with them. To understand who aligns with you, also need to understand who you are, and I
Yeah.
think that takes a lot of work, and that's where people have
Yeah.
taken the time. So I think that's the first step. Let's say they have done this inner work and
Yeah.
they've done this self work. What's the next step?
The second is where I'm understanding it deeply in my nervous system, in my subconscious, in my love blueprint. And I always say this, that, there is a huge part within you that wants love.
Yeah.
But there is a equally huge part within you which is resisting love. You have to clean that part within you. You have to make sure that that part within you that's resisting love is not going to repel or self-sabotage when that love actually comes. A lot of times we unconsciously push love away, right?
So time to heal and time to cleanse before you
Yes.
can even take that next step. A lot of self work before you can even think of getting into someone else's dynamic.
That inner work is actually you bringing yourself in alignment with safety.
Wow.
Once you do that, and then, the
Yeah.
next part can follow.
So, Anamika, we actually have a very interesting segment because this is the New Year special, and we actually reached out to our viewers and we asked them which questions they want answered.
Okay.
And some interesting questions have come up.
Sure.
I'll go right to the first one.
Definitely.
The first one is this is from a friend, let's call her Neha. She is 30, doing well in life, but feeling pressure as friends get engaged and married. She was in a long term love relationship and didn't lead to marriage and is still healing. Now her parents have started sharing arranged marriage profiles. The dates feel fine, but there's no spark. She's torn. Do you wait for love again or choose an arranged marriage and let love grow? And what she really wants to know is one choice more real than the other? Is she giving up on love or just being practical?
That's such a powerful question, but I think this is a question that lives in the hearts of millions, right? This is
Yeah.
not just Neha's story. Here's my take on this, that the divide really isn't between love versus arranged marriage, right? Uh, what we are actually looking at is consciously making a choice and not choosing from pressure, be it internal or external. So the thing is not that how do I choose love? It's
Mhm.
about what I bring into
That's
love. Love doesn't fail how you meet, it fails because of what you bring to the table. Love in a marriage is more important than how you get married. Yes. And for anyone who's thinking that, am I someone who is ready for it? How do I go about it? I would say that, there are these three things that you need to check within yourself. My marriage readiness. The second is your commitment readiness. Am I choosing love or a partner because I'm truly ready for it? Or is it coming from some sort of uncertainty, fear, desperation? And thirdly, the emotional capacity. You might want love, but is something within you ready to receive that, or it will break down on the first date or the second conversation?
in fact, I think Neha herself, right, going on multiple dates, but after some time you feel like you're out of social energy.
Yes.
So is that the emotional readiness that
Yes,
you're referring
that's the
to?
emotional capacity. You can meet a very selective number of people, but how you're driving the process is more important.
Okay, so the next one, Anamika, is from Priya. Priya is 27, close to her family, and always the good daughter. Now her parents have started gently talking about marriage. She isn't sure what she wants yet, but she keeps saying yes to conversations, to dates, to avoiding conflict. Now she's exhausted and starting to resent it. What Priya wants to know is, how do you say not yet without hurting your parents? How do you stop people pleasing when it's family? And how do you figure out what you actually want?
Wow. I know the heaviness in this question because, you know, when it comes to family, it's your own family, your parents that you're trying to navigate, and it's not easy. Here's what we probably need to understand, that firstly, my parents are the supporting actors. Of course, I want their blessings. This is very important, but they're actually going to be supporting actors. I will be the one living every single day in this marriage. Their intention is always your well-being. But the fact is that their blueprint is also a little old. They are trying to project their idea of safety,
Hmm.
of how things should work out for you, what is manageable, what you should compromise on. And while all of those are important, but what's really important is, what do you truly want in this situation? You can always let them know that I'm doing this, I want to do this, but I'm going to take it at my own pace.
Especially in the case of Priya, what I've observed is when kids start getting more confident about where they are, what they want, parents can also sense that.
Yes.
And usually, I've seen parents are more involved in these decisions when they see that the children can't make these decisions.
Yes.
Sometimes they do understand their boundaries and step back when they see children are stepping up.
When they see you confused, they want to come to your rescue. They're like, okay, she's really struggling. Maybe she doesn't know what she needs.
Absolutely.
So when you are decisive, you are clear, they know that, yes, this is happening. It happened in my case as well. That's
Same
exactly
here.
what I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
My father is someone who got everyone in the family married, right? But when it came to me, because he knew I was decisive, I was carrying this process a certain way, I was communicating with him, it did like make it much more easier for us.
Absolutely. I think same here. Even when I was going through this entire process, when you're younger, you see your parents are actually very much more involved in, okay, how are you thinking about it? Do you need any help?
5 proposals every month.
Yeah, but I think once you start growing up and they get some confidence that, hey, I think she's got it,
Yeah.
I see a lot of things change, dynamics also change.
Yeah.
So that'll be fantastic. I hope this helps, Priya. The next question we have is a very interesting one and my favorite. Then it is from Rohan, right? He's 29 in a year and a half long relationship that looks good on paper, but he feels unsettled. Small issues, mismatched timelines, uneven effort. Some days he wants to leave, other days he remembers why he chose her. He wants to know, how do you tell the difference between something that needs work and something that isn't right? When do you stay and when do you walk away?
Wow. One thing that I'm going to tell Rohan is that you need to look at where both of you are right now, not where you started, not the fantasy or the potential of the future. Ideally, love should feel expansive, not repetitive. Everyone's emotional consistency, emotional capacity is very different. And do you align? I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, you have to match exactly, but are you someone who is 100% logical when she is someone who is very empathetic? Because that might be a
Yeah,
clash, right? So there
yeah,
has to be some sort of synergy, some sort of melting point for you. The second is that whatever you envision for your future, your life plans, your vision, ask yourself that if I truly was alone, single at this point of time, and given the highest potential that I can think of at this point of time, it could be
yeah,
2 years, 10 years,
correct.
whatever I can think, does this person help me grow? Or,
Absolutely.
they limit that.
Yeah,
Because I always say this, that the person that you choose to share your life with, they will either expand it, they will
absolutely.
multiply it, make it better, or they will make you shrink into half. Not because they might be toxic or unhealthy, but because there is so much misalignment that
Absolutely.
one of you will have to shrink to make the relationship work.
Wow, this is so profound. I mean, yeah, I think we all need to take a beat to just digest that because it's very true. It happens almost everywhere around us. We see it too often, even in our patterns, in our relationships. But I'm so glad, the way we've summarized it and the way you've put it. And Amika, I'm sure it's going to help a lot of our viewers to navigate this in a much more effective manner.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that was the New Year series for I'll Talks. We have a lot more coming up, but that's for the next episode.